Imagine this. You're at a grand magic show. The magician dazzles the audience, pulling rabbits out of hats, making objects vanish into thin air, reading minds like an open book. Every trick is flawless, every move precise. Then, right in the middle of the act, he stops. No grand finale, no bow, no explanation. He simply walks off the stage. The audience is frozen, confused, restless. Their minds won't let it go. What just happened? Where did he go? How does the trick end? And now, that's all they can think about. This is exactly how you shake someone to their core without saying a single word. People expect closure. They expect a fight. They expect the usual routine: anger, pain, long messages, desperate attempts to hold on. That's the game they know, the game they're comfortable playing. But when you don't play, when you simply disappear, like smoke in the wind, like a ghost in the night, without a word, without a warning, that's when their mind starts spinning. That's when they start losing sleep. Because blocking them, that's expected. It gives them the answer. Oh, they're just mad. Begging, that's expected too. It soothes their ego. I still matter to them. But silence? Silence is a void. It's a question with no answer, and nothing haunts the mind more than unfinished business. Think about it. If a store you've always shopped at suddenly closes, no sign, no notice, no final sale, you'll keep walking by, checking, wondering, what happened? Where did it go? But if a store puts up a big sign saying, closing in 7 days, you accept it. You move on. This is human psychology. People don't chase what's blocked. They chase what they can't understand. They don't miss what's begging for their attention. They miss what slipped through their fingers before they even realized it was gone. And the harsh truth? Most people don't care when they hurt you. They only care when it starts to hurt them. That's why you don't waste another second trying to prove your worth. They had their chance. They didn't see it. Now, you make sure they feel it. From this moment forward, no more chasing, no more explaining, no more proving. You let your absence be the lesson they never forget. You let time do what words never could. And by the time they realize what they lost, you'll be too far ahead to even notice. Say it with me. I owe no one my energy. Write it in the comments. Own it. Live it. And if you're ready to take your power back, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because what's coming next? It's going to make sure they never see you the same way again. 1. When the curtain falls and there's no encore, you don't shake them by fighting for their attention. You don't break them by proving a point. You break them by leaving them with a question so heavy it keeps them up at night. Did I ever matter to them at all? Let that settle in. Right now, you think blocking them will make a statement, that cutting them off will make them realize, that showing anger, sadness, or indifference will make them reflect. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. People don't panic when they're blocked. They panic when you become unreadable, when they no longer know what you're thinking, when the comfort of knowing where they stand with you is ripped away without a single word. Imagine a puppet master pulling the strings, controlling every move, making the puppet dance at will. Now imagine, in an instant, the strings are cut. The puppet falls limp. The master reaches, pulls, tries to make it move again, but it won't. That's the moment panic sets in. Not when they were in control, but when they thought they were and suddenly realized they never really were. That's what happens when you go silent, when you remove yourself from their reach without a fight, without a farewell, without a scene. They expect the drama, the long messages, the desperate attempts to explain, the tears, the closure seeking. But when you give them nothing, when you simply vanish, that's when they start spinning. That's when they find themselves checking their phone, scrolling through old conversations, staring at a screen that no longer lights up with your name. At first, they won't miss you. That's the truth no one tells you. In the beginning, they'll enjoy their so-called freedom. They'll tell themselves they made the right choice. They might even act like you never mattered. But silence, it's a slow poison. It doesn't hit them immediately, but with time, it seeps in. It haunts them, because while they were expecting an explosion, all they got was emptiness. And emptiness is a slow kind of pain. This is where doubt creeps in for you. Right now you're thinking, but if I don't block them, won't they think I still care? Won't they believe they have the upper hand? Won't they just move on without a second thought? That's the trick your mind plays on you. The lie you've been fed to keep you stuck. Because you think closure is something you give them. You think making them understand will set you free. But let me ask you, did they give you closure? Did they sit down and explain their actions? Did they make sure you understood before they left? No. They walked away, assuming you'd always be there. Assuming they could come back when they wanted. Assuming you'd be waiting. Now, you flipped the script. Imagine a store where everything is free. No price tags, no effort. Take what you want, leave when you feel like it. For a while it's fun, it's convenient. But then, one day, the store is just gone. No warning, no explanation, just gone. And suddenly, what was once taken for granted becomes valuable. That's what happens when you go silent. But let's be honest, this won't be easy. Silence is uncomfortable. It makes you feel like you're the one losing, like you're the one being punished. You'll want to check in, to send just one more message, to see if they've noticed. But every time you do, you give them back the power you just took away. Every time you break your own silence, you prove to them that they still matter. That's what stops today. Because the moment they feel your absence, the moment they reach out and find nothing, that's when the regret starts. Not when you cry. Not when you post sad quotes. Not when you try to make them understand how much they hurt you. No, they only regret losing you when they realize they have no idea what's going on in your mind. They thought they knew you, thought they had you figured out, thought they could predict exactly how you'd react. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you break the pattern? When you stop giving them the comfort of knowing where they stand with you? It messes with them. Because people don't fear losing you. They fear losing control over you. They fear the unknown. They fear uncertainty. And when they don't know if you care, when they don't know if you ever even loved them in the first place, that's when it eats away at them. And the longer you stay silent, the more powerful you become. At first, they'll distract themselves, tell themselves they don't care. But then, the silence starts working against them. They start wondering, why aren't you reaching out? Are you over them? Did you replace them? And when they go searching for answers and find nothing, that's when it starts to hurt. And by the time they finally realize what they lost, you won't even care. 2. Close the door. They thought would always be open. If words could change them, they would have changed already. Let that settle in. Right now, you believe words have power. You think if you just explain yourself one more time, if you find the perfect way to say it, if you pour out everything you feel, they'll finally understand. They'll finally wake up. They'll finally see your worth. But let me ask you, did they listen before? Did they respect your words when they had you? Did they change when you told them how much they hurt you? No, because people don't regret losing you when you cry. They don't regret losing you when you beg. They don't regret losing you when you explain. They regret losing you when they can't reach you anymore, when they suddenly realize your presence was never a guarantee, when they go looking for you and find nothing. That's when reality hits them. That's when the weight of their choices starts pressing down. Imagine a radio station that's always playing in the background. You don't really notice it. You don't even appreciate it. You assume it will always be there. But one day, you turn the dial and silence, static, nothing. And suddenly you feel the emptiness. That's what happens when you remove yourself from someone's life. They never truly value you until your presence turns into silence. But right now, you're still making it easy for them. You're still leaving the door open, still answering their late-night texts, their half-hearted check-ins, their lazy attempts to keep you on standby. And then you wonder why they don't respect you. Because people don't miss what they think they can always have. They don't regret what they believe is still within reach. And as long as you keep making yourself available, they will never feel your absence. And here's where fear creeps in. You're scared that if you don't respond, they'll forget about you. That if you don't check in, they'll move on. That if you don't make yourself seen, they'll assume you never cared. But let me tell you something. If someone can forget about you just because you stopped chasing them, they were never yours to begin with. And that's the truth you need to wake up to. Because the right people, the ones who truly value you, they don't need reminders. They don't need to see you watching their stories. They don't need to feel you waiting for them to notice you. The ones who really care don't need proof that you still exist. And the ones who do? The ones who only come running when they feel you slipping away. They don't miss you. They miss the validation you gave them. They miss the comfort of knowing you were always an option. And that's why it's time to make them feel what they never appreciated. Because nothing hits harder than realizing they no longer have access to you. That they can no longer call and expect an answer. That they can no longer send a casual hey and assume you'll come running. That their half-effort is no longer enough to keep you in their orbit. So today, you stop. No more checking their page. No more waiting for their next move. No more answering their weak attempts to keep you around. Because every time you respond, every time you engage, every time you let them know you still care, you're giving them relief. You're making it easier for them to move on without ever feeling the loss. And trust me, people only regret losing you when you make sure they lose you. Think about it. Imagine someone walking into a store, picking up an item, carrying it around, but never actually buying it. They assume they can put it back and come back for it later. But the moment they return, it's gone. Sold. No longer available. And suddenly, they want it more than anything. That's exactly how the human mind works. We don't crave what's always there. We crave what we can't have anymore. So let them feel it. Let them sit in the silence. Let them stare at their phone, wondering why you haven't reached out. Let them feel the emptiness of a world where you no longer exist for them. Because when someone realizes they lost something they thought they'd always have, that's when regret becomes real. And by the time they finally understand what they lost, you'll already be too far ahead to care. 3. Don't slam the door. Leave it open. Just enough to haunt them. You don't need to erase them. You just need to become someone they can never reach again. Let that sink in. Right now, you think blocking them is power. That cutting them off completely will teach them a lesson. That if you remove them from your world, they'll finally understand what they lost. But let me tell you something. Blocking them doesn't break them. It gives them closure. It lets them tell themselves, oh, they're just mad. They'll get over it. And that's exactly what makes it easy for them to move on. Real power isn't in slamming the door shut. Real power is in leaving it open just enough for them to see what they lost, but never enough for them to step back inside. Imagine walking past a house every day. It's old, familiar, comfortable. You've been inside before, so you never really think about it. But one day, something changes. The windows are tinted. The door is locked. The lights are on. Laughter echoes from inside. But you're no longer invited in. You see glimpses of warmth, something new. But no matter how many times you walk by, you can't go in anymore. That's what happens when you don't block them, but simply vanish from their life while still existing in the world, growing, glowing, thriving. That's when regret creeps in, because now they don't know what's happening in your world anymore. They don't know who you're with. They don't know if you're thinking about them. They don't know if they ever truly mattered to you at all. And that unanswered question, that unknown, that mystery, it'll keep them up at night. See, people expect to be blocked. They expect anger. They expect outbursts, emotional reactions, dramatic exits. But when you don't give them that, when you simply stop engaging, stop reacting, stop showing any sign that they even exist to you, that's what shakes them to their core. Because when someone blocks you, you know where you stand. You know they're mad. You know they still feel something. But when someone just disappears, not as a ghost, but as someone who simply doesn't acknowledge your existence anymore, that's when the panic sets in. Right now, you might be thinking, but if I don't block them, won't they think I still care? Won't they believe they can come back? That's the fear talking. That's the lie your mind feeds you to keep you stuck. Because blocking someone doesn't mean you've moved on. It just means you still care enough to react. But you're smarter than that. You don't block them. You become unavailable. You stop giving them access, not by making a dramatic exit, not by playing games, but by making them realize that even though you're still in this world, they no longer have the privilege of being part of yours. And trust me, that's what breaks them. Because now they're watching, they're checking, they're scrolling through your page, searching for clues, looking for signs that you still care. And every time they see you thriving, smiling, living without them, it eats away at them. They thought they had time. They thought they could come back whenever they wanted. But now they're realizing that every day you move forward is another day they fall further behind. And here's where most people mess up. They think making someone regret losing them means posting flashy pictures, throwing hints, making sure their ex sees how great they're doing. But real power is moving in silence. It's not about making them jealous. It's about making them realize they have no clue what's going on in your life anymore. Because nothing haunts a person more than not knowing. And here's the truth. You don't have to prove a damn thing. You don't have to force your glow up. You just have to keep moving, keep living, keep growing. And the further you go, the smaller they become. Because while they're sitting there, refreshing your profile, wondering if you miss them, wondering if you've moved on, wondering if you still feel something, you've already forgotten they exist. And by the time they finally gather the courage to reach out, by the time they realize they let something priceless slip through their fingers, you'll be so far ahead you won't even hear them knocking. 4. Take back the strings. Let them dangle. They only chase when they feel they've lost control. Let that sink in. Right now, they think they've got you all figured out. They believe they can predict your every move. They assume, without a shadow of a doubt, that you'll always be there, waiting, hoping, reacting. And that's exactly why they don't value you. People don't respect what's always available. They don't chase what's easy. They only feel the loss when they realize they no longer have control over you. Imagine walking into a casino and finding a slot machine that pays out every single time you pull the lever. No risk, no challenge, just guaranteed rewards. At first, it's exciting, but then you stop caring. The wins mean nothing. You take them for granted, because there's no mystery, no tension, no fear of losing. But the moment that machine stops working, the moment you pull the lever and get nothing, that's when frustration kicks in. That's when you start pushing the buttons, shaking the machine, trying harder to make it work. That's exactly how people work. They don't chase when you're always there, always responding, always reacting. They chase when they feel like you're slipping away, when they reach for you and you're no longer there, when they suddenly realize they aren't sure if they can get you back. And right now, you've made it too easy. You keep answering, you keep showing up, you keep responding to their breadcrumbs, thinking maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. And they're comfortable, they're relaxed, because they know they still have access to you. But the second you stop, the second you shift the power dynamic, everything changes, because now they feel it. Now they are the ones left checking their phone, wondering why you haven't responded. Now they are the ones feeling uncertain, feeling unsettled, feeling that creeping doubt, maybe, just maybe, they pushed too far. And let me tell you something, they will start chasing, not because they love you, not because they suddenly realized your worth, but because they need to feel in control again. And this is where most people fail, because the moment they start chasing, you let them back in. You see that first message, that weak, hey, that sudden, how have you been? And you jump. You think, this is it. They finally see what they lost, but they don't. They're not chasing you because they regret losing you. They're chasing you because they miss the power they had over you. They want to know if they can still pull your strings, if they can still walk in and out of your life whenever they please, if they still own a piece of you. And the moment you respond, you give that power back. But not this time. This time, you let them feel it. This time, you don't rush to reply. This time, you don't fall for the same game. Because this time, you're in control. And let me be clear, this won't be easy. You're going to want to respond. You're going to want to prove something. You're going to feel that urge to show them that you don't care anymore. But true power isn't in proving anything. It's in not needing to prove it at all. Because the strongest move you can ever make is the one they never expected. So what do you do instead? You stay silent. You keep moving. You keep living as if they never existed. And when they come running back, desperate for the comfort they once had, you let them feel what you once felt: uncertainty, doubt, regret. Because the moment they realize they lost you for good, that's when the real panic begins. And by then, you won't even care. 5. Be the mystery that keeps them awake at night. A person they can't read is a person they can't control. Let that settle in. Right now, they think they know you. They believe they can predict your every move. They expect the late-night text, the emotional post, the moment of weakness where you check their profile. They expect proof that they still matter, that they still hold space in your mind. And because they expect it, they don't fear losing you. They assume you're still there, waiting, reacting, caring. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you break the script? When you stop playing the role they assign to you? When you vanish, not as a ghost, but as a mystery? That's when the panic sets in. That's when their mind starts racing, when they start replaying every moment, trying to make sense of the silence. Wait, why aren't they reacting? Are they really over me? Did I even matter at all? And that thought, that unanswered question, will sit in their mind like a song they can't get out of their head. People don't fear losing what they understand. They fear losing what they can't predict. Imagine watching a movie and right before the big reveal, the screen goes black. No explanation, no ending, just silence. Your mind doesn't just let it go. You replay the scenes, trying to make sense of it. You need to know how it ends. That's exactly what happens when you become unreadable. They expected a version of you, the one who chases, who explains, who seeks closure, who makes it obvious that they were important. But when you don't give them that, when you become unreadable, when you stop reacting the way they want you to, that's when they start losing their grip. Because control isn't about forcing someone to stay. It's about knowing they could get you back at any moment. And right now, they still believe they could. They think if they sent a message, you'd answer. If they posted something, you'd see it. If they reached out just the right way, you'd come running. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you leave them on read, not just in messages, but in life? What happens when they post something meant to get your attention and you don't bite? What happens when they check if you're watching and you're not? They start spiraling, because suddenly they are the ones waiting. They are the ones refreshing. They are the ones analyzing every little detail, trying to figure out what's going on in your head. And the more they think about you, the more they realize they don't know you anymore. And that drives people insane. Certainty is comfortable. When people know exactly where they stand with you, when they can predict your next move, they don't fear losing you. They assume they still have you. But when you take that certainty away, when you become a blank page, a closed book, an unsolved mystery, that's when you become unforgettable. Right now you might be thinking, but if I stop reacting, won't they just move on? Won't they forget about me? Because the mind doesn't let go of what it doesn't understand. The things that haunt us the most. The relationships that leave us questioning. The ones that didn't end the way we expected. The ones that leave gaps, unfinished stories, open-ended silence. Those are the ones we can't stop thinking about. And that's exactly why you don't explain yourself. You don't give them closure. You don't react. You don't show them anything. You let them sit in the confusion. You let them wonder. You let them feel the weight of their own choices. And here's where most people mess up. They think being unpredictable means playing games. They think it means making someone jealous, or pretending to be happy, or faking a glow-up just to get a reaction. But real unpredictability, real power, doesn't come from forcing an illusion. It comes from genuinely not caring anymore, from actually moving on, from coming so at peace with yourself that their presence or absence doesn't shake you anymore. Because when you're truly unpredictable, it's not an act, it's freedom. And by the time they finally work up the courage to reach out, by the time they start craving the clarity they thought they'd always have, you'll be so far ahead they won't even recognize the person you've become. 6. Leave the door open, but never walk through it. They didn't give you closure, so why should you hand it to them? Let that settle in. Right now, you feel this urge to explain, to tell them why you walked away, to make sure they understand how much they hurt you. You want to send that message, write that long paragraph, make them see your side of things. But let me ask you, when they walked away, when they ignored you, when they treated you like an afterthought, did they give you closure? Number. They left you in confusion. They moved on like you never mattered. They made you question everything while they carried on without a care. And now that you're the one walking away, you feel guilty for not explaining yourself. You feel like you owe them something. But that's the biggest lie you've been fed. Because here's the truth. Explanations don't create regret. Absence does. Imagine sitting in a packed movie theater, watching a film that's been building up for 2 hours. You're invested, waiting for the big moment, the resolution, the closure. And then, boom, the screen cuts to black. No ending, no answers, just silence. That feeling, that frustration, that need to know what happened next, that's exactly what happens when you disappear without a word. People expect closure. They expect a conversation. They expect to have the last word, that final moment, that neat little ending where everything is explained and wrapped up. But when you give them nothing, when you walk away and leave them standing in silence, that's when it haunts them. That's when the regret starts to eat away at them. People don't panic when you explain yourself, because when you explain, they get relief. They get to understand your pain. They get to hear your reasons and tell themselves, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." They get comfort. But when you vanish, when they have no idea why you left, when they sit there replaying every moment, every conversation, trying to figure out where it all went wrong, that's when the silence starts working against them. And here's where fear creeps in for you. You're scared that if you don't explain, they'll assume you never cared. That if you don't give them a reason, they'll move on like you were nothing. That if you don't say something, they'll forget about you. But let me tell you something. If someone can forget about you just because you stopped explaining yourself, they were never yours to begin with. And that should tell you everything you need to know. Because real impact isn't made through words. It's made through disappearance, through the empty space you leave behind, through the questions that haunt them when they realize they can no longer reach you. Think about it. When was the last time you truly missed something? Was it when you had it? When you could reach for it any time you wanted? Or was it when it was gone, when you realized, too late, that it was never coming back? That's how the human mind works. We don't crave what's explained to us. We crave what we don't understand. And that's why you need to resist the urge to give them that final explanation. Because right now, you want to make them see your worth. But the truth is, people don't see your worth when you tell them. They see it when they feel the loss of you, when they reach out and find nothing, when they go looking for answers and realize there are none. So let them wonder. Let them sit in their own thoughts. Let them lie awake at night, replaying every moment, every word, every little detail, trying to figure out where it all went wrong, because that's the real lesson. That's what haunts people. And here's the best part. By the time they finally understand what they lost, by the time they come crawling back, desperate for that explanation, you won't even care anymore. 7. When time speaks louder than words. They think you're at home, checking your phone, wondering if they've moved on, convinced you're still clinging to the hope that you mattered. They picture you anxiously waiting for any sign of regret, any fleeting gesture that proves you left a hole in their world. And for a little while, they don't feel your absence. They're too busy telling themselves they made the right choice, too occupied in their own distractions to notice what's missing. But time has a habit of making people face the truth they've been avoiding. In the beginning, it might look like they're thriving. Perhaps they're posting photos that paint a perfect picture of a carefree life. Maybe they're out every night, meeting new people, or filling their hours with noise and movement. In that initial phase, they don't feel the pang of regret, because it's easy to forget something when you're convinced a new version of it is just around the corner. Yet the clock never stops. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and that's when the silence sets in. Like a pair of flashy new shoes that start pinching after the first few wears, that bright excitement fades, and they begin to realize what truly fit them might already be gone. No one admits this at first. They'll brush off the uneasy feeling that creeps in. They'll tell themselves they're just tired, that they need another night out, another conversation, another string of superficial moments to keep their mind occupied. But eventually, some small reminder, a certain song, a random street corner, a dish at a restaurant, triggers a memory of you, and that memory doesn't let them off easy. They start to recall how you listened, how you understood them, without them having to spell out every thought. They might remember how your jokes always landed just right, or how your presence felt like home on the darkest days. And it stings, because in that moment they realize they can't reach for you anymore. People like to believe they can replace what they've lost, but you can't simply replicate a genuine connection. A new face might entertain them for a while, but it won't fill the exact space you occupied. When that truth surfaces, regret follows right behind it. At first, it's a slow, distant ache, something they can still push aside if they stay busy enough. But time is patient, and the ache grows. They start checking to see if you've reached out, but there's nothing. They scroll through your old messages or revisit your social media, expecting some crumb of your attention. They keep hoping to see you appear in their notifications, or wonder if you're viewing their posts in secret. And each day they find no trace of you. The emptiness in them spreads. This is where many people slip. They count the hours and days, anticipating that regret like it's a bill that's overdue. They sit around waiting for the message that never comes, or they cave in and send one themselves. The moment you do that, you show your hand. You reveal you've been just as caught up in them as they assumed. That robs time of its strength because it tells them they never truly lost you. But when you keep moving forward, when you refuse to check if they regret their choice, time becomes your ally. Every day you focus on your own life is another day the distance between you grows. That distance is what forces them to confront the reality of your absence on their own. They might tell themselves they don't care. They might carry on like you never existed. But genuine indifference doesn't require constant distraction. If they were truly over it, they wouldn't need to fill their time so aggressively, and the quiet moments wouldn't feel so heavy. They begin to realize what they had was rare, and that maybe it can't be replaced with a quick fix or a hollow stand-in. By the time they muster the courage to reach out, the person they once knew has already turned into someone new, stronger, happier, less willing to leave the door open. It can be tempting to monitor them from a distance, to search for subtle clues that their life is falling apart without you. But that ties you to the very thing you're trying to release. The best gift you can give yourself is to let go so completely that whether they regret it tomorrow or in 10 years no longer matters. You trust the passage of days to do its work, quietly, inevitably. When they finally confront the feeling that something is missing, you're not there to ease their guilt or feed their curiosity. You're somewhere else, building a life in which they play no part. This isn't about revenge, it's about freedom. You can't force someone to miss you. You can't beg them into caring. All you can do is step away and allow time to reveal what truly matters. Maybe they'll realize they lost something irreplaceable, or maybe they'll keep searching for shallow imitations. Either way, you choose yourself. You keep moving forward. You stop looking back. And if one day they reach the painful conclusion that they made a mistake, you won't be there to lessen that burden. By then, you'll be living in a place where their absence feels like a closed chapter in a book you no longer need to reread. So let time work against them. Let every sunrise and sunset be a day you invest in your own growth and joy, a day that makes you stronger and them more distant. They might not feel it now, but rest assured they will. Time leaves no one unscathed. Eventually, the quiet moments will catch up with them, and the echo of what you once were will sound louder in their mind than any shallow distraction. And when that day comes, you'll already be so far gone that their regret has no path to reach you. That is the quiet power of letting time do the talking.